This modern age has given us choice. Back in the day, if you wanted to contact someone, for example, your choices were basically write a letter or make a phone call. These days, you can write a letter or an email. You can phone them, you can send them an SMS, you can send them a WhatsApp, you can get hold of them on BBM or Facebook or Twitter. You can even post a video on YouTube if you really want. And that range of choice has even extended to the once humble Mini. Back in the day, you could choose just 2 minis, depending on whether you were a mom or a tradesman. Now there are no less than 5 of the things to choose from, this being the latest, the Coupe. Evidently, the company thought that small cars shouldn't be the main theme of their ever-expanding lineup, so they decided to create a small car with fewer seats. So they've decreased the interior space, but they've increased the nauseating design. Many interiors and I just don't get on. If you haven't heard my tirade before, I'll keep it short for the benefit of those who have. Some of the cheesy lowlights in here include interior lights that change colour, aircon controls that look like a Mini logo, and a gear shift in the shape of a crash helmet. Added to that, Mini are now incorporating some new finishes, like this horrendous 1950s-style aluminium siding. I know it's supposed to be retro, but there's a difference between going retro and going backwards. But there are some good things. For one, it all works well, and our test car was kitted with some decent tech. Bluetooth, USB, sat-nav, heated seats, and it's all fairly ergonomic and intuitive, and the optional 3,750 Rand visual boost radio is easy to use. There is a common complaint that the rear space in the regular Mini is just too small to be comfortable or useful, and the upside of this coupe is that no one in the back seats will complain. That's because there aren't any. Like all good coupes, this one is strictly for 2. Boot space is good for a car this size, and there's enough room this time round for more than just weekend luggage. Now to the most glaringly obvious difference between this and the other Minis, the styling. The look of the coupe is a good mix of sort of, well, it's kind of, I'll get back to you. In the meantime, let's discuss the virtues of this car. First up, it is a Coupe S, which means it benefits from Mini's recently uprated motor, and it gets firmed up suspension for a more fun drive. No doubt though, the best thing about this car is the engine. It's a 1600 turbo with 135 kilowatts and 260 newton meters. The 6-speed automatic gearbox allows for a 0 to 100 time of 7.1 seconds and a top speed of 224. But despite its good power and its relatively okay fuel consumption, one of the best things about this engine is the noise it makes. It has a raspy little note that just makes you want to keep your foot in it, and it's another character-building part of this car. A bit like the styling, which is... I'll get back to that. One thing about driving a Mini, you can always be sure that there's a lot of fun to be had. Even the lowly one, with its 72 kilowatts, manages to generate some excitement because the handling is so good. In the Coupe S, things are tightened up, so the enjoyment is usually upped as well. And yet somehow it just isn't. I don't know if it's a psychological thing, but this cabin closes around you, and the ride setup feels harder than usual for a Coupe S. Plus, I've got rattles in surround sound, one in front on the right and one in the back on the left. It's still a Mini in all its torque steering, corner killing glory, but somehow it's just not as enjoyable. And that's despite the fact that the other Mini virtues are all there. Great handling with sharp steering to match. With the sport button pushed, steering, throttle and gear changes are made more instant, but even that doesn't seem to do enough to alleviate the irritation I'm feeling. Oh yes, about that styling. I think the best way to describe it is to say that it is... Towards the end of last year, we tested the regular Mini Coupe S with an automatic gearbox. The biggest problem for us was that it had paddles on the steering wheel, which used a laughable push-pull system, which allowed the driver to shift up or down on either side of the wheel. Oh, how I wish we had that system in the Coupe. Without the system, you have got 2 options. You can use the gear shift in a sort of sequential manner, in which case you might as well have a manual, or you can let it do its own thing, in which case it just takes away from the rest of the drive. It is completely ordinary, this automatic gearbox, and it really doesn't belong in a car like this. That's official. This is the least amount of fun I've ever had in a Mini. Adding up all the pros and cons so far, we come to a stalemate. On the plus side, great handling and a motor that's one of the best. On the minus side, an average gearbox and an over-designed interior. I guess it's down to the styling. I've got it. From the front, it's great and it's pure Mini, including those blacked out headlights. From the back, it's pure Mini and it's great, with a superb twist on the coupe theme. But the problem is, the back and the front have to live on the same car. And they just don't cohabit very peacefully. Look at it in profile and it's a bit of a mess, with an odd-shaped window, a bunch of lines that don't really come together very well, and a rear roof spoiler that gives this thing an overbite the Simpsons would be proud of. At this point, I'd like to say that I'm the only member of the RPM team who doesn't like the look of the Mini Coupe, and I'm quite prepared to admit that whatever the designers were trying to achieve is lost on me. But I'm also quite sure I'm not the only one. To be honest, I'm disappointed with the Mini Coupe. I thought it would look better in the metal than it does in the pictures, but it doesn't. And the automatic gearbox does a lot to undo what should be a very good drive, especially in the Coupe S. There is one inescapable thing about it though. It is very mini, even though it's not the best one they've ever made. Plenty of go and good handling ensure that the dynamic talents of the Mini take center stage, as the performance figures suggest. But the auto box simply doesn't suit the coupe's adrenaline-charged character, and some unwelcome interior rattles suggest that the cabin needs work too.